Oh yeah, it's definitely recording. All right, so here we go. So this has to be real, Daisy. Well, this is Daisy Lowther, and we're talking about our ordinary holiness. This is another interview. And Daisy, I don't know if anybody on here on the face pages or the YouTubes knows who you are, so you better introduce yourself and tell us who you are.
Probably not. So I am Daisy Lowther. I'm a junior at Bennington High School. I am involved in softball, and I am trying out for tennis this year, which is new at Bennington. So
Cool.
I am also a middle child. I go to St. Pat's in Elkhorn. So yeah, basics about me.
Do you think that did you get into tennis because you were like you were so used to like swinging a bat? You were like, if I can swing a bat, I can swing a racket. Kind of like, I don't know if you know who Happy Gilmore is. Do you know Happy Gilmore or no?
Yeah,
You
I've
know,
seen the
so
movie.
like
That's such a good movie
it's
too.
the same thing, right?
Yeah. Well,
Awesome.
kind of. It's different.
Well, lower.
Well, yeah.
With the
I mean,
transition,
it's more
like
of
if
like
you
a
can.
sidearm kind of thing, and then you have like the backhand and
Oh, so
all
it's a little
that
bit more
stuff.
complex.
Yeah, and then you actually have to serve it with the racket.
Okay, dang it. This isn't quite going to be quite as easy of a transition as I thought it was going to be. So I take all of that back that I said. Erase the Happy Gilmore analogy.
Yeah.
Well, so this is you, Daisy. You're gonna be a junior. You know, everyone wants to say that I'm already a junior, but you're definitely gonna be, as long as they don't make you guys redo sophomore year. You're gonna be a junior at Bennington. Let's hope you don't have to redo it. And I've kind of I think I knew you a long time ago, like when you were in 8th grade. I had run across you, but I didn't run across you again until a couple of years later. So maybe like give us a little bit of background on what got you more into your faith. You know, more into like diving into this Jesus Christ guy, you know, figuring out what this church thing is, like kind of like lead us into that. How has your journey gone as far as faith goes?
Well, I mean, first off, it all started back in fall when I had one of my softball teammates. Her mom emailed our team and was like, "Hey, who wants to volunteer for this 8th grade retreat and help out and lead these 8th graders?" And so I was just kind of like, "Sure, why not?" And as we like got going into it, you approached me and Jordan, and you were like, "So, like, I haven't really seen you here in a while, like, because I was new, and I've been through the confirmation stuff before." And you were just like, "So, what would you be interested in coming back and going to youth groups and stuff?" And I was just like, "I want leadership." That's one of the main things that I wanted. And uh, I wasn't really involved in Spy, and I didn't really pay attention to it much. And then you you got my email and Jordan's, and you emailed us about this retreat that came up in January. And it's called the You Are Loved Retreat. And I was so nervous when I was going into that, because I thought all these people were just like into Jesus, like, Jesus is my life. Not like, I didn't think anyone was gonna be like me there. And so I'm like, "Jordan, you were going with me." So she came with me, and we had a blast. I loved it. There was we had adoration, and I've never seen that before. Like, I didn't even know what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And I walked in and I was just like, "What are we supposed to do?" And I looked around, saw everyone was praying, and then I was like, "Okay, so all we have to do is pray." And I started praying and like pouring my heart out, and it was just so surreal, because you wouldn't have expected to just sit down in a dark room having Jesus in front of you.
Yeah.
And you just say everything that's on your heart, and it was amazing. I loved it. And once the retreat was over, I remember Alex said something about how it's hard to get like away from the retreat because everything is just right there. Everything's going great, and then you go away, and then you might forget everything,
Mm-hmm.
and your faith life might not be where it was at the retreat. And that kind of stuck with me to the point where I was like, "Okay, we got to pray every day. We got to do this. We got to do that." And I just kind of tried to keep that of what I had at the retreat and continue it through on this year. So
Awesome. I think so. So you would say like that first prick that kind of got you involved was that call to leadership, like a challenge a little bit, you were just kind of out there floating around in your faith, kind of doing whatever, but then there was a call to do something and you're like, hey, I want to be a leader. And then as you kind of get involved in some of these activities, there's that. And I guess we call this thing that we do here, this interview is like an ordinary holiness interview, where we talk about like the ordinary means of holiness, the ordinary everyday things that you do. But you went on one of these extraordinary events. So this You Are Loved retreat, and you went there, and even I guess the confirmation retreat is an extraordinary thing. It doesn't happen every day. It's not your daily day in and day out stuff, but you went on this extraordinary thing, and it was like this really amazing experience that you had with Jesus. And then Alex tells you, hey, you got to make sure that we carry this thing on into the ordinary, because you can't live in the extraordinary all the time. You have to make this a daily habit, daily things that you do. And you held on to that and said, okay, I'm going to take this and I'm going to run with it. I got to make this happen.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Pretty much.
Awesome. I think that flies nicely into the next questions I have for you. When we talk about the ordinary means of holiness in some of our meetings that we have, we talk about 5 things. We talk about prayer, we talk about sacraments, we talk about charity, we talk about penance, and we talk about studying our faith as ways that we can grow in our faith every single day, things that we can do all the time. So let's just run down that list and talk about how you've taken your experience that happened at the retreat and modified it to something maintainable every single day. So when it comes to prayer is the first one we talk about. You talked about, I'll just sit here and pray to Jesus, or I'll just unleash all of these feelings that I have, or all these thoughts that I have. How does that look in your everyday life? What is your prayer life? Maybe what did it look like, and what does it look like now?
Before, nothing. I didn't really pray. Like sometimes I would, but it'd be on the rare occasion. And I'd say after the retreat, I got more into it. And I remember that we had these journals that we would write in. And I liked that. I liked that a lot. And so I have a journal too. So I kind of write different stuff, different things that are on my mind.
Yeah.
And I also, whenever I'm driving, I like to pray out loud. Cool. It just gets all my thoughts out in the open, kind of in my car. And I usually pray at night too. That's one of the weird things. I don't like praying at day, because at night I seem more calm, and that you just get everything off your chest that has happened throughout the day. Mm-hmm. And I just like that idea. And I know that I have joined this one group called Rosary Runza, and we pray the rosary every Monday, but since the coronavirus, we pray it every day. And I mean, I've missed a couple of times because of softball practice.
So you haven't gone 80 days in a row, huh? There's been some days that you've missed regrettably, huh? Bummer.
Yeah.
Broke that streak, huh? And I'm joking right now. I'm joking. I think most people will be they're like, dang, this girl's prayed almost 80 days in a row. That's awesome, dude.
I almost have. And I was so bummed out because I missed one day, and I was like, gosh darn it. Because I was on a roll, and then softball came around because it's back on, and you have to do all this stuff now. And basically, I then started to do the Divine Mercy Chaplet, and there is this other group I'm involved in where we pray the Divine Mercy Chaplet. Well, we did. It was on, I think, Tuesdays and Thursdays, maybe. And we would just pray the Divine Mercy Chaplet at 3:00 on those days. And then we would do a couple of mysteries of the rosary.
Yeah.
And there was one time we actually did the whole rosary.
You're saying all 4 sets of mysteries, huh?
Yes.
Wow.
I think that was the first one too.
Yeah. You guys were zealous,
and
huh?
Yeah, it was a lot. But I enjoyed it personally.
Yeah.
And
so you got a little mix here. You got, you have your extemporaneous prayers where you're just sitting out here and you're just getting these things out of your heart. You're getting these things off your head, but you also have these times where you sit down and you structure these rote prayers, like the rote structured prayers where you're going to sit down, okay, at 7:00, I'm going to do this. At 3:00, I'm going to do this, and set up a little bit of a structure for yourself too, huh? Mm-hmm. As someone who was looking at you, seeing all these kids praying the first time, when it came to the rosary, I'm in there as the chaperone, okay, I'm gonna make sure these kids know how to pray the rosary. And I can definitely see a difference in your life. At the beginning, you're like, I don't know what these mysteries are. You're like, I don't really know what's going. And like no one's like come on Daisy, like they're just saying like, all right, hey, no problem, it's this one, no big deal, you know. But then seeing you now, it's just like it's such an extension of like who you are. You know, it's not, I'm not saying that you're just going through the motions, but it's just really become part of you. And I think that's really cool how you become so much more comfortable with it just through practice. Faking it till you make it, I guess.
Pretty much.
Yeah, cool.
No, I remember first time I went to the rosary thing, I had no idea what like the "Oh my Jesus, forgive us our sins" prayer was. And I was just trying to listen, and I'd be like, don't call on me for a mystery. Please don't call on me for a mystery. Like every single time, because like the first one I went to, the guys were like, how about the girls do the mysteries? And I was like, my first time here. I don't know this.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Awesome. Well, you've come a long way, that's for sure. I think everybody would say that. So that's awesome. I'm glad that you're honest about that too. The next one, so we got prayer, super crucial, something you do every day. The next one's sacraments, and it's specifically talking about the Eucharist and confession. And I think these are things that all middle schoolers and high schoolers struggle with. So can you walk us down that journey of where you've come from on the Eucharist and confession, and then what it looks like now?
Well, I'd say like the only days I would go in the beginning was like Sundays, and that's only if I didn't have softball. And even then, that was a struggle too, because we had to get my family up. We had to make sure that everyone was in the car, getting there on time. And it was always a struggle. But we always tried our best to get to Mass on Sundays. And I'd say like now it's better because of like the coronavirus and stuff. But that sounds bad.
Yeah. What do you mean when you say that?
Well, we have been trying to do a Mass online.
Yeah.
And we've been watching that stuff. And I know that I've been going to daily Mass because I don't have anything going on during the day itself, like in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's in the morning or at night. And now that I can drive, which is really nice, I can drive to daily Mass. I go with a group of friends too, and we go to St. Charles Borromeo because that's the only one that's open really at 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
So we go there, we go to Mass, and then we usually just talk about anything that's going on in our lives. Sometimes we talk about church and all that stuff. Sometimes we talk about family. And then that same group, we go to confession. Like we try to go like once a month.
Yeah.
And I think it's really cool because first time we went, no idea what I was supposed to do. I was like, hey, yo, what are we supposed to start with? How do we approach Father? What do we do?
Yeah.
And I think I got like a parking lot lesson of what to do for confession.
Now get in there, huh?
Yes.
Now go for it.
Yeah.
So you were really out of practice, you'd say. You know, you hadn't been very much, and so you're just kind of like, hey, refresh my memory. You know, what do I do when I get in there? And there's like, come on, you'll be great. Just get in there, and you're like, oh, and you just dive in. And have you seen it as a positive in your life? Has it been pretty good?
Yes, it's been pretty good. Let's see. Like I didn't know this, but apparently there's like a paper that is on there's a paper on the side of the wall.
Yeah.
And like it has all these papers in it, and it tells you what to do for confession. I found that out the second round. Yeah. And I was like, I didn't even need these parking lot lessons.
Makes it easy as possible, huh?
Yes.
Awesome.
It was very nice.
Awesome.
So.
Okay, how about this one? The next one, and they kind of go hand in hand. We've got charity. So we're talking about loving God for his own sake. We're talking about loving our neighbors as ourselves. And then we also have penance or mortification or self-denial, you know, finding ways to in one way maybe think about somebody else. So we'll talk about that, but also in the back of our minds, like if we're thinking about somebody else, we're going to stop thinking about ourselves so much, or maybe put ourselves, maybe deny ourselves a little bit so we can think about that other person in our lives. Let's start out first with charity. How have you changed, especially in your own family? What does that look like?
I'd say like before I wasn't the best at it. Like I'm still not the greatest, but it's better than what it was because I used to do this thing where my parents would say, go unload the dishwasher or take out the trash or feed the pets. And they still do that, but
Hmm.
back like before all this, I would say okay, and then I do it like 2 hours later.
Yeah,
And
sure.
that was when like they reminded me like 5 other times.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I was awful at it. Still kind of am, but it's better.
You're making
And
progress.
yes, honestly. And there was this one time, I decided to take care of my parents' laundry. So I brought it to my room and then I folded it and then I brought it to their room. And I would do like different things with laundry. And there was a couple of times where we'd be doing like my parents would want us going outside. I'd stay for more hours to work outside and just help them with yard work.
Hmm.
And they definitely appreciated that. They
For
always
sure.
appreciate that.
I think
So,
in my house, there's a thing called a first time listener, where it's like, I'm not telling you 17 times, but you need to be a first time listener, but also I think even in the workplace too, as someone grows older, you want those people that are working for you that are like self-motivated. They're seeing what needs to be done. And I think that every parent out there is saying like, oh my goodness, if my child could just see the mess in our house and just take initiative, my life would be so much better. But truly people talk about, these ways that we can be charitable to everybody. Like you've been to Winnebago, right? Did you go with
no.
those guys? You haven't gone there. Okay, so there's a place we go called Winnebago, and I think every time we go there, it's easy to love the people that you encounter at Winnebago. It's easy to love somebody that you encounter at the Open Door Mission or at the food, wherever you might go to do some charitable activities. But I think
Mhm.
it's so hard to love the people that you live with. Your parents, your siblings. Like it's so difficult to love them. But those are the ones that God calls us to love primarily. And I think that it's such a great thing for you to actually like start to do some of those things that you don't actually want to do. That's awesome. Those are great
Yeah.
examples. How about the self-denial? And I think sometimes when we talk about like mortification or penance, like people think that Catholics just love to punish themselves, but really thinking of it in an aspect of like, hey, I'm going to offer this up, this suffering, this self-denial of the multitude of pleasures that I could have in the world, pop, candy. I'm going to deny myself of those things, and I'm going to offer up that suffering for others, in the mindset of Jesus Christ. So, what does that look like in your life? The penance,
Cold showers.
cold
Lots
showers.
and lots of cold showers. I hate, hate cold
You hate
showers.
them though, huh?
Yes. Cause like I would literally turn on the faucet. I'd be like, oh gosh, oh gosh.
Yeah.
And it'd be so cold. And then there was one time I took a hot shower and I was like, this is really hot, but it feels so good.
I've been
And
missing this.
then I
Yeah.
got back into the cold showers. I'm like, oh, I miss this. So
So when you when you do this cold shower, this penance, this aesthetic thing, what's in your mind? Like, what do you do those for? Why have you gravitated to that so much?
I think I gravitated more because it's like the whole idea that it's not really for you, it's for others.
Hmm.
And like thinking about how you are doing this, like because you weren't the nicest towards someone.
Hmm.
And it's like, I don't know. It just gives you that sense of, I just did that. And so if I do this for like anything else, maybe I can try and be better as a person, I
Yeah.
guess.
I
Like,
think you bring up two good points. One would be I'm doing this as a penance, to make things, in some ways to like make things right in a way. Like, if someone breaks a window, it needs to be cleaned up. Maybe someone
mhm,
forgives you, but there needs to be a window that needs to be cleaned up. So as an example, okay, maybe you've been forgiven by the person or by whatever, but you're gonna undergo this penance for somebody else's soul. And I think that speaks to not First Colossians, but Colossians 1:24, when St. Paul says, I fill up in my flesh what is lacking in the sufferings of Christ. So that what lacks this in the sufferings of Christ is your participation, where you're going to deny yourself and you're going to forego certain pleasures for the good of others. But then also, oh dang, now I had the thing oh man, I had the other one in my head and I totally forgot it. That's one aspect of it. Oh, I know what it was. Resisting temptation is another way. Talk about being a better person. So many of us, we can't resist temptation because we always tell ourselves yes. So when temptation comes our way, we're like, well, what else would I say but yes? Because I've been saying yes my whole life to everything I've ever wanted. But when you start denying yourself of the good things in life, not that you can't have these things. No one's saying that someone's going to hell because they took the hot shower, but you're saying, I'm going to deny myself So when temptation comes my way, I'm ready. I'm prepared. I've been training for temptation by the grace of God, to dismiss this temptation, as Jesus did in the desert. Cold showers, though, huh? I heard ladies hate cold showers the most because their hair is like, my hair doesn't matter. I just go whoop. It's no big deal. But ladies have longer hair. I don't know if you've noticed, and it can be more difficult.
Knotted. It gets really knotted.
Yeah.
Like I tried to like comb out my hair, and it hurt because it was all tangled, and I was like,
so this is penance upon penance, right? Not only is it a cold shower, but it's also knotted and mangled hair. This is bad news. I don't think anyone's going to be like, you know what? Daisy's really motivated me to take cold showers. Everyone's be like, that Daisy lady's crazy, man. We're talking about crazy Daisy? Oh, I know. That goes way back to when we first met each other again. When I was like, didn't I ever call you crazy Daisy? You're like, shut up, dude. Yeah, all the time.
Started like in first grade. There was like this book. It's called Crazy Miss Daisy.
Oh,
and it was like weird school kids. I used to read those books all the time. And then I know that one of the guys at the Rosary Runza, they're like, Crazy Daisy. And I was like, I'm not even that crazy. But like, I kind of live up to the name too, so.
Cold shower thing again. Remember don't forget the cold showers. All right, 2 more questions for you. The next question is with the study, and not just like studying at school, because that's a tough thing for everybody to do, but that could be a penance actually, but it's also good for you. But when it comes to studying your faith, so many of us leave our faith in 8th grade, or leave it when we stopped going to regular classes on the faith. What does it look like now in your life, even compared to earlier, when it comes to studying the realities and the mysteries and educating yourself on your Catholic faith?
I'd have to say mostly like I did do a little bit of reading of the Bible. Like I kind of just hammered it out. I started with so I watched this one video. It's on Netflix actually. It's the Gospel of Mark. They have all the Gospels on there.
Oh wow, how about that?
Oh cool, we'll just watch this one. Because it was like the shortest, so I chose to watch Mark. And so I watched the Gospel of Mark, and I was like, this is really cool. And then there was this one quote that I liked. I think it was, no, I'm not gonna like purge myself here. So basically it was this quote of how it's like the fig tree.
Yeah.
And there's also like this part where Jesus is like, if you pray like you're going to receive it, then it shall be given to you.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuck with me. And so I got my Bible out, highlighted that verse, and then I was like, what other stuff like this that I like would be in the Bible? And so I asked one of my friends, hey, what's a good book to read? And they said, read Acts. It's blood, guts, and glory.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, I guess I'll read it. And I read it. There wasn't really much like guts and glory, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But and this is like a guy, so it wasn't really as gruesome as I thought.
Yeah.
But it was still good. I enjoyed it personally because I like that type of adventure and seeking rather than always like receiving and getting all of these rules. Like I tried reading Exodus. Sure. I couldn't.
Yeah.
I could not.
Certain books are more about rules and regulations, where this is more of a story, where you're moving along with somebody. I mean, even in Genesis or Exodus, in some parts you're going to have those stories where you're going to be walking with someone and they're going to be encountering things. And you thought that was you really like that. I love what you said earlier too. I found something good in the Bible, and I wondered like, hey, maybe there's other good things in here too. So I started to read.
Yeah, pretty
awesome.
much.
Great reasoning. I think it's fantastic reasoning. Well, here's my last question. It's a 2-part question. If you could say things that maybe you've experienced in your own life or you've seen your friends, for the parents on the face pages out here, like for parents, hey, these are things that I've seen work well in the lives of my friends when encouraging students in the faith, and these are some things that I've seen that haven't worked so well with my friends. What would one of each be? One positive and one negative.
Oh, that's a good question.
Thank you. Everyone seems to say that, and I always go, thank you for the good question.
It is a solid question. This is gonna make me think. Well, I'd have to say for a positive, like I've seen how I'll start with negative.
Good. Let's end on a positive note. Good idea.
Um, kind of like the whole like forcing children to go. I
Mm-hmm.
kind of like the idea of having that permission of to go, I guess, because like you don't want to force things onto children, and but at the same time, it's also a good thing because you want to get them to learn about the faith.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know personally, like I remember we would always have to go to church, and sometimes I would get bored, and then I play rock paper scissors with my sisters, and my parents would be like, "Shh, pay
Damn
attention."
it.
And I mean, I didn't really like church,
Mm-hmm.
and then I actually got to understanding what it all means,
Mm-hmm.
and then it got more interesting.
Yeah.
And so I'd say like help your children to understand what they are trying to pray about, what
Mm-hmm.
exactly is happening during the mass, why are you there?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I guess that's a
Yeah, I
negative.
mean that helps somebody. Like you don't like at some point. I got little kids. You got to kind of force them to go, even when they say they don't
Yeah.
want to. But at some point, along that middle ground of middle school, there's going to be like, okay, you're growing up. You're gonna have to start making these decisions for yourself. You're taking the hands off the kid riding the bike. You're taking the training wheels off, things like that. But if you're gonna take those training wheels off, it's important to tell somebody what they're doing. Because if we're just showing up, we show up, we make ourselves present, and we leave, and it's not affecting our lives. There's not a good reason that we're going here. The kids aren't going to see a reason to do it. But if you
Mhm.
are informing, and that comes with self-information as well. As a parent, you're saying you need to know these reasons so you can tell me what the heck I'm doing here, or else it's going to seem like we're wasting our time. And I got a lot of better things to do, like play softball, right?
I mean, I guess.
So you're not going to say that. Okay, so you're not saying that softball is better than math, and I wouldn't say that either.
Well,
But
okay,
but someone might think
I'm
that in
not
their
gonna
head,
say that like
right?
softball is better than God. Like that's
Right, for
ridiculous.
sure, for sure. But someone's
So
going to say that in their head. They're like, hey, if I don't know what I'm doing here and you're not going to explain this to me and we're just going through the motions, like I've got better things to do. And that goes from adults all the way down to kids. Everyone's going to think that. I mean, people have a lot of things to do today. So I think that's
yeah.
an, that's an important, that's a beautiful aspect that you brought out. Just that necessity to inform this kid who's growing older as to why we're here, not just that we're going to be here, but why we're going to do it. It's no longer good enough to be like, because I said so, Daisy. It's gonna be like, well, this is why we're going to mass.
Yeah.
So excellent. I love that. I love just how you've taken advantage of this time too to really grow in your faith with not a lot to do. Softball's kicking back up, so that's impacting it a little bit, but you've already established a core in your life where now this is the core of your life, and softball kind of works its way in, but it isn't the foundation. Not that it ever was, but it's not the foundation of your life. God seems to be the foundation of your life, and that's awesome.
Mhm.
Well, all right, Daisy. If they didn't know who you are now, if they didn't know who you were before, they know who you are now. So you're out there. People know about you. I appreciate it.
Yes. Thank
Awesome.
you.
You're welcome. We'll see you soon. Thanks, Daisy.
Bye.
Bye.